We did talk to you about Boss Baby, like, gosh, again, it feels like forever ago. And we knew you were in X-Men 97, but it was back when like you weren't allowed to talk about it. We couldn't really ask about it. And as big X-Men fans, we are super excited to actually be able to talk about it with you today.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I remember the Boss Baby press tour.
Yes. So the original show is what got me started on this like journey of being a huge Marvel fan and going back and revisiting the series. I remember thinking Morph could have just done so much more because their powers are so cool and unique, not only to just, for battle purposes, but the comedic value. I adore this series and how Morph changes into different characters to tease their fellow team members. When you were auditioning, did you always know it was going to be for Morph, or was it a big secret until kind of the final process?
I mean, yes and no. Everything was coded. All the characters were names were something else, like Steve or Frank or it was. But um, I had an inkling of what the project was and what it was for. Admittedly though, I wasn't very familiar with Morph. I came to the comics and to the series much later. I didn't come to the series really until after I was already cast. Um, because I was a fan of the movies and all of the other things first, and then, kind of came to it in reverse. Uh, but I did identify with the character as soon as I read the script. I mean, it just popped off the page as like as somebody that had a great sense of humor, that had a very traumatic backstory, but pushed through it with humor. And yeah, it was just somebody that really resonated with me. In addition to, Morph is non-binary. We knew that from the get-go. So uh, yeah, it felt really, really personal.
I love that. Um, I also need you to know that Morph makes me laugh out loud at like, oh ungodly three something in the morning. Every time. I mean, that scene with Magneto and the comment about, oh, somebody's parents didn't buy them a pony. And then the face, I was cracking up. I woke my husband up because he does not care to get up at 3 in the morning to watch X-Men. Um, when
I
you
don't know what's
step,
I
wrong with
was up
him.
at 5 this morning to watch, so I
oh
feel
my
you.
God, she hasn't seen today's episode, but I have, and I'm broken. And that was not funny, not funny at all.
Yeah,
Marvel's
th
like,
this was one episode where Morph's humor was not needed. It couldn't solve anything that was happening. So
That's the word on the street. I'm a little distraught about what's going to happen when I get off this call. I'm not going to lie.
mm,
you should be. So, anyway, let's not talk about that.
Back to the topic on hand. Yeah, no. Um, so in the 60s, like the X-Men comics were kind of created and, to hold a mirror up to society, for us to kind of have constructive conversations about, societal fears and hatred and the things that, people just didn't understand. And, 30 years later, we're still kind of doing the things that the X-Men have always done and holding those mirrors up to kind of look at ourselves and having people or helping people to have those constructive conversations. In what ways do you identify with Morph, and how do you think that that helps to strengthen those conversations?
well, I mean, just on a very concrete level, Morph is non-binary. I identify as genderqueer. I mean, which are kind of you know two parts of the same house. And so on that level alone, yes, absolutely, it's very clear. But there's also, because Morph is somebody that has experienced so much trauma and does push through it with humor, that is something that I definitely identify with. And I think a lot
Okay.
of queer people do. I think that's very much a part of our stories. Um, I think being, even in a crew of outsiders, feeling a little bit like the outsider, Morph is just sort of dipping his toe back into rejoining this team after so much trauma and experience and recovery and all of that stuff. So feeling a little bit like the odd person out. I mean, also, there was even that line outside the danger room where uh, Wolverine goes to see about Jean, and Gambit goes to see about Rogue, and Morph's just by himself. And I think there's part of that that would like some type of companion, but I think there's also just the idea of that he's not the priority all the time. And so there is sometimes that feeling of that I think resonates with people, queer or otherwise, of feeling like somebody who's the odd person out in the team. And I think all of that lends itself to those really human connections that people have, that even though Morph is the gray skins, non-binary human, that a mutant that he is, there's so much to connect with. There's so much that resonates with anybody as like, oh, okay, I identify with that. And as much as for me, it is paramount of importance that a queer kid or a queer person would watch that show and feel uplifted to see a positive representation of a queer
Yeah.
superhero. In a way, it's also important to me that a cis or hetero human watches this and feels some human connection to this character, even though they have an identity that maybe that they don't personally identify with, or they don't understand, or it's new to them, or might feel alien in a way. It's nice to have people have that sort of nice bond with a character that identifies that way.
Sure. Well, and as a bi woman, part of that same, house, I'm here for the queer diversity that is being celebrated in this show. And I love that Marvel in general doesn't hesitate to kind of dip their toes into anything, that celebrates the different. As I think a lot of studios don't necessarily welcome that as openly as, Disney and that whole studio house. So we're happy about that here.
For sure.
So,
Yeah. I mean, they push the envelope and
mhm.
as in the way that they do, and I
Yep.
think it's been uh obviously it meets a lot of backlash along the way, but I think what has been so positive about the X-Men this series is that yeah, there's been backlash, but just been so much backlash to the backlash, and just uh
Yes.
seeing the fans just come out of the woodwork to defend not only
Hmm.
Morph, but to defend Jubilee, to defend Bishop,
Yes.
to defend Rogue and her curves or lack thereof. Like, it's
Yep.
nice. It's nice to see that this has a solid fan base who believes in the true message of the X-Men.
Well, and exactly what the X-Men has been since the beginning of the X-Men. So
Right.
the people that kind of forget what the message and the inception of them was at the get-go. So,
Hmm.
So I've seen a lot on social media with AJ and Lenore and Matthew kind of playing up the whole love triangle thing. And I feel like we need to see you and Cal Dodd dressed alike and pretending to fight, or even you jumping in with AJ and teasing him about Rogue and Magneto. I swear, Morph is the cat. You know that meme with the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills where they're like, she's mad and she's pointing and the cat's
Oh,
like,
there is one of the.
is there
Have
one?
you not seen it?
Oh, no,
Yeah,
I
it's
haven't.
it's like a little morph head. Like,
Oh my God.
oh, it's
Yes.
funny. Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, that is Morph, just sitting there like, and
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
um, you were one of the newcomers. How was it connecting with the original cast?
I mean, we're just starting to. We met at the premiere. I had never met any of them before. Most of us hadn't. And even now, because most of the original cast lives in Canada, we still don't really see them. Lenore is moving here, so we've seen a lot of her, and she is a blast. I love Lenore Zahn. Love, love, love. She is just, I mean, talk about a woman who has lived so many lives. I mean, she's been rogue. She's done all of these cons and, visited with fans and everything. But she was also a British MP, a Canadian MP for what, almost, was it 4 terms? And, has lived this whole political life and is now coming back to her life in in X-Men. She's fascinating and just so much fun to be around. What a great sense of humor. So that's been a blast. What little I've chatted with Allison Seeley Smith, what a love, such an Earth mother. I adore her. Cal has been lovely, but for the couple minutes that I saw him at the premiere, but I'm excited to get to know them better. I think the the newer cast, we have such a close bond. We've had a text chain going since the announcement, and I mean, even this morning, we were all just like, "Oh my God, have you watched yet?" Like, it's so fun to just have that connection with people, and I think it resonates with the fans too. I mean, when we were at WonderCon, we would razz each other on the panel and everything, and I think people just enjoy seeing that we're not we're not that different from our counterparts in terms of having that dynamic.
I love that. I think it really comes across too in the show. I know you guys don't always record together, but you can still kind of tell
We
that
never
there's,
do.
yeah, but you can still tell
Mhm.
there's just like, and obviously the old cast know each other very well. And like you said, the new
Mhm.
cast know, you guys know each other very well. So it all comes across. And like I said, as someone who grew up with it, it hits all the right notes for me. The
Yeah.
chemistry is just on point.
And I think some of that is really a test. I mean, I'm always doing this, but so much of that is a testament to our director Meredith Lane, who's our voice director, who's also the director of Arcane and What If and Castlevania, both of them, and Blood of Zeus. Like she works on prestige animation, and the fact that she's able to get these subtle, nuanced, beautiful performances. I mean, let's let's talk about today's episode without talking
Oh,
about today's episode. Like, to get those performances out of people without them even being in the room together and tracking what those reactions need to. I'm not saying anything. Tracking what those reactions need to be. She's fantastic. So yes, the chemistry when we are with each other is great, but she's the one that's able to really make that chemistry crackle when we're all just alone in our own rooms.
If you could transform into any Marvel character, doesn't have to be a mutant, who would it be and why? I know it's a tough question. There's so many good ones.
Any Marvel character. Uh, I feel like, oh, I did say, I have said Thor, just because I think for comedy purposes, I think Morph doing doing Morph's deep voice and like all his Shakespearean talk, but with that sassy sort of wit and attitude, I think that would be
Mm-hmm.
hilarious. That's for comedy. But as for me, like just what would be fun? Um, I think I've always really loved that scene from Thor: The Dark World where Loki turns into Captain America and is doing that
Yes.
whole thing, that whole shtick.
yes.
As somebody who is an affirmed, like, absolute lover of Steve Rogers, and even more so Peggy Carter, um, I think I'd love to just step into Loki's shoes and do Captain America. I think that would be fun.
Love it. That
Yeah.
might be the best answer.
Also, just from it, like, there's also something kind of otherworldly to be the outcast of the outcast and to turn into the most beloved. Like the guy has like they redid the Statue of Liberty for this guy. Like just to see what it's like to walk around in the shoes of
Team
the most
Cap.
adored human. Yeah.
Exactly. We're Team Cap too.
We're
That's
Team
like
Cap
when
all the way.
when Morph walks in as Xavier and what I think it's the first episode, right? It's
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
like you said, outcast of the outcast into like the most beloved
Mm-hmm.
character on the
Most
team.
respected. Yeah.
100%.
For sure.
Love it.
With, with Marvel Studios putting an X-Men film finally on the calendar, and fan casting, of course, is rampant. I usually don't get involved in those, but I do love you as Morph. Would you be up for playing them in the live action if that came your way?
Sure. Yeah. I've done a smidget of live action in my day. Yeah. I honestly, the reason that I haven't pursued live action isn't because I didn't enjoy it. It was actually kind of fun. It more had to do with that I found myself getting just so narrowly typecast in a way that voiceover never did. And yes, I'm playing a non-binary character now that I feel is very, very mirrors me and feels very near and dear to my heart, and I love that. But I'm also able to play a whole bunch of. I was Boss Baby, like there's a whole bunch of other things that I get to do. Um, yeah, but getting to play a role that didn't feel like caricature, but felt like something just so close to my heart. Oh my God, yeah, in a minute.
Okay, I love that. Putting that out in the universe now. Just,
Absolutely. So
Oh,
we
but
all
God, when I
know
have to
that
shave my head, please no, please bald cap me. Yeah.
bald cap, yeah, for sure. I'm sure
Yeah.
they could bald cap
Oh no,
you.
you have your hair is way too, no, you can't shave that. Don't do that.
I mean,
100%. Nobody would make that happen.
Karen Gillan didn't have to shave her head for Nebula, right? I can get away with it.
No, she did shave her head,
She
like,
did
but
shave her
on
head.
purpose. Like
But I
she
think
wanted
she did
to.
it. Yeah, I think she did it by choice. I don't think it was mandatory. I think she decided it was easier. So,
Okay,
you know,
okay, breathe, breathe.
yeah, deep breath is
Um,
fine.
love that journey for her. Do not love that journey for JP. I don't think
Exactly.
he.
Have shaved my head
Almost
for
wore
a
that
role
shirt
in
today, by the
college,
way.
so
So we all know that Marvel has their, really hardcore NDA, sign away your first, second, third, fourth born child, etc. The darts coming at you in every direction if you spill secrets. So
Mhm.
obviously we know there are things you can't share about what Morph may or may not be doing in, this season or the next six. But is there anything that you're allowed to share that you would like to share about what Morph might be doing coming up soon?
Um, well, I will say this: these are less what is going to happen and more what I'd love to see happen. Like my wish list for Morph. Like I would love to see. Um, I love Morph's dynamic with Wolverine. I actually would love to see their friendship explored more. Like, because I think we've all seen the as people have said, like, ooh, the shower scene. I'm like, hold your roll, guys. I actually think there's some beauty in celebrating a a queer straight friendship that's that's actually really lovely and it also has been my experience as well. And it doesn't have to be the queer person pining after the straight person. Like, I don't know if we need that. So I'd love to see that more. I'd love to, but I would love to see Morph maybe have a romantic interest of his own. Who I don't know. That would be great. Um, oh, and I'd love to see him just like get to beat the crap out of Mr. Sinister. Like just a full on just like melee. Like I don't know if that's gonna happen, but it would be fun. So that's my wish list. Is any of that gonna happen? Yeah, I don't know, but I hope so.
We're going to
I
put
hope
out
so
into the
too.
universe that all of those happen. Would love
I
that. Maybe we can get live action Morph in Deadpool 3.
Ooh.
I'm
Okay.
just saying. Wolverine,
Okay.
Ryan Reynolds, the whole mashup. I don't know.
Well, they're gonna have to film it quick because it comes out what in 3 months. So,
Oh, I
yeah,
know, but
that's
I mean, listen, how hard would it be to film like an end credit? I'm just saying.
hey, I'm here. They got my number.
I think Wolverine and Morph, like, I would love to see more of that friendship too, because they
Yes.
do have that scene and they do need each other. Because Wolverine, I mean, plug your ears, Jana, in this episode, right? Wolverine's gets hurt again emotionally by
No.
Jean. Nothing. I said nothing. And I just feel like he needs his buddy Morph to be like, it's gonna be all right. And then to tease him into, letting out his emotions in a more constructive manner than he probably usually does.
By wrestling with Morph slash Sabretooth.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, I think Morph first Sinister is coming because it's in the title sequence. There's a shot of Morph kind of in the middle of that with Sinister's eyes. So I just
Hmm. Yeah.
but Morph
Mm-hmm.
better
Yeah.
not make me broken and unwell like Rogue did to me today. I'm not
I mean,
okay.
I can make zero promises. All that I because who
Okay.
knows. But what I will say is that Morph did die in the first series for a minute.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're necessarily going to retread that anytime soon. But who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, that's true. So
Famous last
true.
words.
Exactly.
Well, JP, thank you so, so much for joining us again. We would chat Marvel with you every day of the week if we could. and I'm about to go watch another episode and apparently be unwell for the rest of the day. So thank you both for that. And thank you, Marvel
I wish you
Studios.
well. Go with God.